So, again, welcome everyone, and welcome to Friday's Tech Talk. Today, we're excited to have a wonderful speaker, Eddie Freeman, an expert at making AI tools practical and easy to understand. So, he helps businesses and individuals harness smart automation to save time, eliminate repetitive tasks, and achieve better results. So in this session, he'll introduce you to agentic systems, AI tools that can take initiative and handle tasks for you. So without further ado, take it away, Eddie.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, so let me get things set up here so I can get going. Oh, there we go. There we go. Okay. All right, sharing my screen. Oop. Sorry, I'm having issues with my screen sharing. Give me a second.
It's okay, we have the time.
Oh.
We got you. We got you, Eddie.
Oh, now it's not letting me click it again. I've lost the window. Sorry, my computer seems to be frozen. What is going on? Always at the beginning, technical failures.
It happens. It happens.
Okay, now why is it? Oh, here we go. That's why it was doing that, because it was on another screen. Okay, here we go. I got it now. Everyone can see my screen. There
Yes,
we
we
go.
do now. Shout out to everyone here who has dual screens.
Indeed. Okay. So let me go ahead and get things organized. So I'll probably be just having my presentation on one screen and my notes on the other. So if y'all leave notes and things like that in the chat, I won't necessarily see them, at least until later. But I'll take pauses here and there. So if you have questions, drop them in the chat, and then we'll try to save those until the end. Sound good?
All good.
All right. Right. So let's get started. So to cut through all the AI hype and the very valid fears that people have around, like, what's going to happen with AI in our tech industry, the jobs that are out there. Well, I'm here to help you break through some of those fears and understand how the AI works and how to use them effectively to do what you're trying to do better. AI is not just a tool, but I have found it to be a partner in thinking. So we'll break down that black box and try to understand that partner that can be one of the most patient, never gets tired thinking, and always there for you. By the time we're done, you'll hopefully have 3 techniques you can use tonight, not next month, not after you take a course, but tonight. As long as you have access to an AI agent, you should get some use out of this. So let's get going. All right, so today, we're going to talk about how we got here, some of the foundations, and then practical techniques. So first, the foundations, or first we're gonna kind of get an understanding of the timeline, and with the foundations, we're gonna all get on the same page of some terminology and things that that you need to know to be able to understand the agents and the things that I'm talking about. And then the techniques are going to be prompts that you can use to aid yourself in the everyday that you can also build into agentic workflows. And we'll talk about what that means to some extent later on. All right, so let's get started. How we got here. Give me a show of hands or in chat, just say like, when did you first hear about NVIDIA, out of curiosity? And this is the one time I'll be in the chat. Okay, so some people pretty wild. Yeah, okay, yeah, graphics cards, 2006. Okay. All right, so people here, or at least several people here, have a good idea of who NVIDIA is. But interestingly enough, there's it wasn't until recently that they were really in the headlines for a lot of people. And we're going to go into why that is. Most of us, or at least a lot of people, didn't know until Elon Musk started getting richer and the headlines of trending stock tickers. All right, so how did we get here? Oops. Well, in the 1960s, there was a lot of work being done on computer or on mathematics around thought and computers and how they worked. The concept during this time of deep learning came out, and there were some breakthroughs there. This is kind of the starting point of what the neural networks that AI scientists talk about today, a concept that's been around for a while. They're running on the same foundation that made your favorite game characters come alive. The tech that rendered virtual worlds is now helping AI understand our very real business challenges. Personally, I grew up playing a lot of video games. It was a way that I connected with my sisters and friends. While they weren't the only option, NVIDIA's graphics cards rendered incredible 3D worlds, where I definitely spent way too many hours. But it wasn't until recently that I realized the same technology, making dragons look realistic in fantasy games, was also secretly teaching computers how to think in multiple dimensions. Now, I studied computer engineering and computer science, but it wasn't until I dove a little bit deeper that it started to make sense. Like, why is that true? So, curiously, who here has heard of the technology S-curve? Because the general concept is that gradually a technology builds over time. As new breakthroughs come out, it kind of slowly comes about. And then as soon as it hits a certain threshold, the curve escalates rapidly into an exponential. And everyone everywhere and everyone's an expert overnight, where somewhere on this curve with AI, we're still figuring out where. I lean kind of towards phase 1 on the cusp of phase 2, where I don't know if everyone's felt it, but like in the last year, it feels like there's way more. Yeah, Linus Torvald reference. I see the chat. And whether you realize it or not, you've been part of this revolution. You've been teaching AI to better think, to become a better thinking partner. And now it's time to put that training to work for you. All right. Before we move into the practical, let's set some foundations. One thing that separates those who get frustrated with AI from those who can't shut up about how amazing it is context. Context is king. Think about it. You can't read minds, right? If I walked up to you right now and said, help me, your first question would be, help you with what? You need context to be useful. And the same thing is with AI. So it doesn't just give you one generic response anymore. Modern AI can create what we call agents. Think of them as specialized team members. I have an agent that helps me organize my research, another that helps me write in my voice, and one that turns my rambling voice memos into organized thoughts. Each agent needs context to do its job well, just like any team member would. The magic happens when you learn to brief your agents, AI agents, the same way you brief one of your best employees or someone that's helping you on a team project. All right, so let's get practical. As I've been talking about, AI today is a tool. The more precise you get in using it, the better your results. Context is king. And one of the things that I think most people don't understand is how you can get context from different sources. All right, so let's go ahead into a couple of different techniques that you can leverage tonight on improving how you interact with AI systems. The context sandwich, as I like to call it, is the first technique we're going to dive into, where we're going to layer our context to net better results. Just like a great sandwich, you're going to need 3 layers to be satisfied. A great AI prompt needs those same layers: who you are, what you need, and how you want to deliver. And the magic isn't in the individual ingredients necessarily, but it's how they stack together to create something better than the sum of the parts. Most people serve AI a single ingredient and wonder why the results can be bland. So let's improve that. All right. Let's do this in action. And again, this is going to be you all interacting in chat. Just toss your suggestions in chat, because I'd love to see what you all come up with as we try to create a context sandwich together. All right, I'm going to show you a single layer prompt, and you tell me what ingredients we need to make it a 5-star context sandwich. Go ahead and toss them in chat. Let me know what you think. And if you need me to reference what context sandwiches, that's exactly what's the result you want. A deadline, okay. Okay, yep. Execution plan, marketing materials, competitive pricing, which product service, what goal, by when. Nice, okay. Yep. All right. The example that I'm gonna show you all is specific to a student. Yeah, what are you marketing to who? What channels you use to connect with your audience? All great questions. So precisely that, right? We need to answer or provide more to give the agent the tools or the information it needs, the context it needs. So here's an example of a much richer prompt that would give those precise answers, right? The previous one was very vague, didn't really clarify. Here, I'm a junior marketing student writing my final case study analysis for Professor Johnson, who emphasizes data-driven insights. Help me understand TikTok's algorithm changes and their impact on small business marketing, with a focus on metrics I can actually measure for my presentation next week. So what do we have there? What's the extra context? We've got, they're a junior marketing student. They're writing their final case study analysis for a professor. That professor emphasizes data-driven insights. So we need to have some data included in our analysis. And they want to understand TikTok's algorithm changes and the impact on small business marketing, which does answer some of those questions that people were tossing in there, like who's the audience, by when, next week is the presentation, what's the goal, right? They're trying to understand the algorithm changes that impact small business marketing. Awesome. All right. So that's the context sandwich. And if you have questions about this, please toss it in the chat. But let me then start by telling you a story. And yes, you may be wondering what chaotic is. I did create that term to represent ordered chaos. But this story is about how AI, for me, became a creative partner, not just my research assistant. Yeah, thank you. Yes, chaotic. I run a collaborative storytelling session with friends and dice. Most have heard of D&D, right? We play a system called the Wild Sea. It's more narrative driven, focused on kind of a weird and wild setting. And there's a lot to manage. So over the months, I've accumulated notes everywhere. Character backstories, plot threads, world building details, random ideas I've scribbled on napkins or yeah, just other places. It was creative chaos. But then again, I also have ADHD, so I get ideas all the time. They come at strange moments. I'd forget important details, lose plot threads, couldn't connect storylines effectively. And this is something that I think everyone can relate to in some way, shape, or form, whether it's trying to remember someone's name or where you met them, or things that we now have tools, digital systems like customer relationship management systems, things like that. So to create Chaotic, I created a system that helped me drill into and define the things I need to build the campaign setting and notes that I need to run the game. And I created what I call the campaign agent. Using Claude projects, I prefer Claude for creative stuff. I fed it all my scattered notes, taught it my storytelling style, and gave it the personalities of each player, as well as some of the surveys that I had taken before the game for our session 0. Getting a sense of like, okay, here's the tone that we want for the story. Here's the narrative that we're trying to tell. And now when I'm preparing sessions, it's like having a collaborator that never forgets any of the things that I'm talking about. So just an example of this, earlier this week, I was running up against deadlines at work, needed to get things organized, preparing for this presentation. And I still needed to have in-game notes to be able to talk about what's happening this week. So I go into my campaign agent and I tell, okay, here's my idea. Here's what I want to do for this session. And then I go back and forth with it. And boom, I get tailored storytelling ideas with hooks, relevant NPCs, and more that connect everything together. And this taught me our second pattern, the recipe card method. The recipe card method is your personal collection of AI templates. You take scattered data or information and you bring it together in a format that's consistent. In the case of my campaign, it was how I wanted the in-game prep notes to be presented, so that way I could speak to different beats of the story as we progress through the game organically. And in this example, I created the context and ask for some data that we were trying to process in my wife's business that runs Square as its processing payments. And I needed certain things answered. I needed to know clients. I needed to know the number of clients, average ticket sales, and things like that. So I put together the context and ask. I connected through the agent Square so that it can actually go and hit Square's APIs. And then I gave it a format. And if any of you have heard of prompt engineering, this is an example prompt. So like you give it the ask, and then you give it the data formatting, and then you explain yourself. You ask it to explain itself even further. So instead of starting from scratch every time, I just now have this formatted template that I ask it whenever I need to get this report because it doesn't come with Square directly. I can use this template and reuse it forever. All right. So similar to last time, let's walk through an exercise. As with the example, give me my budget data in an easy to read format. So in chat, share with me, what are some of the things that you would do to improve this prompt to give you consistent information in a way that you want it to be? Oh, come on, chat. Okay, there we go. Nice, nice. Okay. Yep, specific formats. Do I want it in a PDF? Do I want it in Markdown? PowerPoint. Yep, yep. Yeah. How do you want it to look? Organized by categories. What are the categories? Is a great one to add there. Yep. Yeah. So breaking it up by monthly expenses, pie charts, in a PowerPoint, income, expenses. Yeah, where does it come from? So like that's something we can get into as well, where it's not just the data source. And I have a terrible story about how I got that data for Square. Yep. Do you want the whole thing or just a specific period? Right. Well, here's an example that I put together that kind of hits on all the things that you all were talking about, right? Giving you my budget data in a table with month, weekly breakdown of categories, and then you give it the template. Couldn't fit here on the slide, but you get the idea, right? You give it, here are the data points that I want to capture, and I want this in this format. And then you give it some extra context, right? I want to use this to regularly check my financial goals, provide the formulas used. I think that last bit there was super powerful in what I did with Square, because it let me also validate that the formulas that it used was accurate. So with every one of these prompts, being critical about how what it presents to you, especially with data like finances, it's super important to be critical about what data is being returned from the AI. So to go into the like how this data or what data I had to grab, I had to go through Square and screenshot different reports to be able to get the information that then this processed and created the report I wanted. Because none of the reports in Square, sadly, gave me exactly what I was looking for. All right. So that was the recipe card, or an example of the recipe card method. So as I was working on my campaign or on this presentation even, I had all these ideas bouncing around in my head, but I didn't necessarily have like a good way of getting them organized quickly. So I did something simple but powerful. I went for a walk and just talked to my phone for about 10 minutes, totally stream of consciousness, jumping between ideas, contradicting myself, going down tangents, pure mental chaos. And because I use Claude, they have a mobile app that let me immediately upload that to one of my agents that then took all of my scattered thoughts and processed it and turned it into notes, brainstorming, pulling out nuggets of wisdom or ideas. And with Claude, I also have like the system prompt, which allows me to give it some base instructions for every interaction that it has with me for that particular project. And so for this, it's exactly that. It has the context of something I'm working on, and it's able to then take what I'm thinking and sharing with it in voice memo. When inspiration strikes, because it can happen at any moment, and takes that information and puts it together into comprehensible notes that then organize my thoughts. Now, what came back wasn't perfect, but it was a foundation that I could actually work with. We went back and forth, me refining, AI organizing, until I had something solid. All of this got captured in my Obsidian Vault with their AI plugin that helped me connect these ideas to previous presentations that I'd taken notes for, or other research I'd done within my note ecosystem. And that's when I realized AI wasn't just a search engine or a writing tool. It was my thinking processor. It was this, which leads us to the third technique, the thought processor. So going from mental chaos to clear action, something that, as someone with ADHD, super valuable for my day-to-day. And it's relatively simple, right? The thought processor, oops, that's where the slides didn't get changed over. But apologies. So the thought processor technique is about transforming your messiest thinking into clearest plans. You don't need perfect input. AI handles rough, contradictory, half-formed thoughts beautifully. And that's because it has the context of other things you've given it. So if you break that up into 3 or 4 or 5 different walking sessions as you're kind of thinking about an idea or a thing that you're working on, this is a great way for you to just get those down and generate it into something you can use later. So Markdown is something that I'm very familiar with because I use Obsidian. It's one of those transportable like formats that LLMs are also very adept at processing. And so that's something that I've taught it to do as well. For me, is just like every time I go through and create these ideas or process my thoughts, the value of this is like I now have a template that it can generate notes for me as I'm on the go or doing something different. So this is your creative chaos with AI's organizational superpowers and context pulling to create breakthrough clarity. You bring ideas and expertise. AI brings the structure, refinement, and ability to pull disparate contexts that maybe didn't come to you in the moment. Together, you can think better than either of you could alone. And the benefit is, the value is that it's generally always there, or at least near your fingertips. All right, so we're not done because you all have homework. That's right. I've given you 3 specific techniques that you can start using tonight. Not next week, and not after you take a course, but tonight. And remember, mastering one technique before adding to the next, because AI expertise is built through consistent practice, not information overload. So pick one that solves one of your biggest headaches currently, and yeah, give it a try. So as a reminder, we've got the context sandwich kit. You've got here's some examples that you might go with, right? If you want to create a research sandwich, you can start with like, I am a role with a specific topic and then your desired outcome, right? Or if you're trying to solve a problem, I am who I am, facing a specific challenge that needs a desired outcome. Yeah. That's a great question. We'll get to that. Adrian asked, LMs have short context memory. Where are all these thoughts being persisted? And then create a sandwich. I am creating a thing for an audience with characteristics. And I think with this format, you can do a lot. And you can even set this up as like an agent on its own to whenever you write down a note, you can then have it kind of run through this process of helping you dig deeper. All right, the recipe card starter pack. So again, this one's relatively simple as well. Task and context layered with template of data and a statement about explaining how it came to the results that it gave. Choose, one of your most repetitive tasks, whether it be a social media post or maybe diving into a topic that requires some sort of data layered to it, or even not, because a lot of times with the recipe card, right, it can be not just data, but also like I was saying before, how I want my in-game prep for my role-playing games. So that way I have it organized in a way that's helpful to me in that moment. And all it takes is creating a reusable template that gives you consistent results every single time. So start simple. You can always make it more sophisticated once you've gotten used to it or refined it even with AI's help. All right. Then the last is your thought processor, your voice to vision pipeline. So first things first, right? You need a method of capture. And whether that's uploading it to somewhere else, or rather uploading it to the agent after we capture it, or doing it, like I said, with some of the AI agents applications that exist today. So Claude, for example, has the mobile app that you can use, and automatically you can upload there. But record yourself talking about any challenge for 2 to 3 minutes, share that audio or transcript with the AI assistant, and then let it help you organize by even giving it some thoughts on how to structure your thoughts, extract the key themes, and organize them into whatever format that you prefer, whether it be Markdown, PDFs, or whichever. And then refine. Go back and forth to clarify and improve. And I use this technique, in fact, for this presentation to kind of help me organize my thoughts, to get some of my stories straight, organize kind of the flow of the presentation. And those are the slides that I have. So thank you. Remember, the 3 key insights here is, first, AI isn't magic. It's methodical. It's something that takes patterns from across different contexts and presents it to you in a way that you ask it to, or in a way that makes the most statistical sense. And that's why the context sandwich teaches you that precision in prompts leads to precision results. Layering your requests, like you're briefing your best team member or a project, someone that you're working with a project on. Second, consistency beats perfection. The recipe card method gives you a repeatable template that works. Build your collection card one at a time, and you can eventually have quite the recipe card deck of different things that you want. And then third, embrace the mess. The thought processor shows that your rough thinking plus AI can lead to breakthrough clarity. And just because you maybe don't write well or aren't necessarily the most organized person doesn't mean you can't have those things. And maybe AI will help you stay consistent with that. For me, I struggle taking notes while in a meeting or having a call. And I don't need to wait for the perfect idea. The beauty of this process is that it helps me organize the messy ones, right? The half-baked ideas. And most importantly, start simple. Start tonight, because it's, the tree that was planted. What's the idiom? The tree that was planted yesterday. It's never too late to plant a tree. It's better to plant a tree today than to hope that you planted it 20 years ago. So with that, let's dive into some of the questions.
Alrighty. So we do have a question from Brian Jacobson. I'm not sure if this was answered, but he said, could you share a bit about how you create agents?
Yeah. So under the hood, an agent is a system prompt with the tools that it's able to access. And I previously had a slide in here that talked about a concept, the MCP, which stands for Model Context Protocol. And all that is just a interface that's standardized for providing tools to or context to an agent. And so an example of that was the Square MCP in one of my stories. I plugged that into Claude and basically gave it some credentials so it had secure authentication to the data that I had access to in my Square account. And from that, I was able to get data from Square and also make updates to Square using agents. So that's one example. And I think another example for anyone doing software development is with Claude Code. It's something I've used and is relatively established as one of the better agentic setups. And the beauty of their configuration is that it's markdown prompt engineering. So for an agent, you can actually, with Claude Code in the command line, hey, I want to create an agent, and it'll spin up kind of a workflow to help you generate that agent. What's its purpose? What are the tools it can use? What's the information it can access? All those different layers to help you in whatever you're trying to work on. And I think with specifically with like the Claude projects, which is where I do a lot of stuff. Yeah, MCPs is really powerful. With the Claude projects that I've been using, that's what they're using under the hood with their GUI interfaces, right? So they'll say like, what tools do you want to use for this request? I've got Canva hooked up. I've got Square, as I said, and you can also connect your Google Drive. And again, this is just a way to give the agent access to different external resources. So information that it can pull in to respond to your question. And within the system prompt, you can tell it, hey, I want you to use these tools for these kinds of questions, and give it examples of the kinds of questions that you'd want them to use that tool for. Yeah, go for it.
All right. So the next one is we do have from Jordy again. What AI agent do you recommend the most?
Yeah, I think it depends on the use case. So there's an entire ecosystem of leaderboards and benchmarks that are used to test and evaluate different LLM models. And depending on your use case, the model differs. So, for example, I use Claude with their Sonnet model for most of my things because it's multimodal, which means that it can take images, it can take files, and it can take text, and it can take all those things together to come up with an answer. So for some of my conversations and things like that I'm having with it, that's a great way for me to give it extra content. So I'll take screenshots and toss it in there of data, as I said, with Swear, to give it more context. That said, if you're trying to create something that's smaller and more, focused on just text, like maybe trying to summarize something, like for instance, in my Obsidian notes, that's where I would use Haiku because it doesn't need to have multimodal. It's a smaller model, so it's actually something that I could potentially run on my local machine, which we didn't necessarily get into, but that's, I think, one of the powers of, as things progress on that technology S-curve, the potential of us being able to have intelligent LLMs on our local machines versus having a server is increasing more and more. So I've said a lot about Anthropic, but obviously there's Gemini from Google. There's, oh God, what is it called? Grok from Twitter. Some others that we didn't necessarily talk about are also from China that have, oh gosh, now I'm blanking on the names. There's the Quen model, which is like Quen coding. And then there's another one that I'm trying to remember. But either way, like a lot of the choices of which model you use depends on the cost. So in multimodal, the amount of tokens, someone mentioned earlier, the context window, short-term context, depends on the size of the model. And so it somewhat depends on your use case. For instance, with Claude Code, it was much cheaper to use some of the Chinese models because of how they had set up their services. But then you also run into like, oh, you're going across to different countries, and it gets, kind of interesting politically.
All right. How about this one? It's from David. Do you have to stick or adhere to a standard workflow for each and every task?
No. So I think for some of the workflows that I shared today and some of the techniques that I use to help improve like my processes and the way that I kind of work through things, tweak and evaluate. Are you getting consistent results? That's actually something when you're building an AI product, for instance, something that leverages LLMs for a product is part of that life cycle, having regular evaluations, which essentially validate whether or not the tool or the prompt is consistently working the way that you want it to. An example of that in the real world is at my company, we have an OCR processor that looks for serial models, serial numbers, and model numbers. And we have evaluations that essentially take the OCR, then have it go through, I think we use Haiku for that particular scenario, because it's just processing the strings of numbers that we got from the OCR, and then ask it like, hey, which one's a serial number versus a model number? And we have evaluations to see how often it gets it correctly. And then we refine the prompt as a result.
That's nice. All right. Okay, moving forward to another one question. It's from Desiree. She's asking if how can individuals balance
Mm.
using AI agents without becoming over reliant on them? This is a good question, to be honest.
Oh yeah, absolutely fantastic question. Because yeah, I think that's where maintaining critical thinking of the AI and what it produces is incredibly important as we continue along this technology S curve, whether we like it or not. And that's kind of where I think I didn't include it in this deck, but there's like a deeper conversation to be had of like, you know, how much usage of AI is going to benefit humanity versus not. How we use it, I think, is another big question. And the, I guess the long and short of my thoughts on that is, um, as a creative writing partner, I am often reviewing what it generates and saying like, is this something I would have said? No. It took me practice and years of writing on my own without AI to get to that point of like having clarity of what I would say, the voices I would use, the way I'd present something. And I think that's a critical part of this process is making sure that you're not. Same thing with coding, right? Coding agents. Some of the concepts that are out there that I didn't get into in this talk is for specifically for development is spec-driven development, right?
Mhm.
And the concept there is you have the idea and you're breaking it down into subtasks, specific tasks, like areas of or features that you want developed, and then having the agent go and help you build that. But even though it can build maybe the first bits of that, there's going to be iterations. As with any software development process, it's kind of like you become the team lead and you're managing a team member who has a lot of context, especially if you provide it with a lot of context through MCPs or other integrations. But you still have to validate what it's producing. One day we'll maybe get to that place of agents or AI abstracting a layer, similar to maybe Star Trek, right? Where when they would develop those hologram programs, they would just be talking to a computer and have it generate the simulation. Maybe one day that's where we'll be, but I think it's going to take time and understanding of those underlying systems to get there as well.
Yeah. Well, actually, in relation to that, I sometimes still ask even the AI, like, do I really sound like this? Can you make it sound more me? Most of the time, because AI is still AI, and
Yeah,
it's still different from us how we say it, how we do it.
yeah.
So I always still ask after I given the prompts. I've read what the AI provided and was like, can you make it sound more like me based on how we did these conversations before, how I prompted you? And
Well,
it would take a while.
well, I mean, this is another way that the thought processing technique or thought processor can help you, right? If you leave it voice memos of you naturally speaking,
Oh,
that's a way for you to train the AI how to speak more like you naturally. Now, how you speak versus how you write are two different things. So giving it examples. So like if you have any written work that you've done, like in a Google Drive or some sort of digital format, that's a way for you to give it context of like, this is how I typically write. And it has to be stuff that you've fully written, right? All errors and all, problems and all. And that's one way to develop the voice that is most like you.
yeah.
Yeah, because I think that's the critical part, right? Is you are training it. You're training the agent
Yeah.
to understand how you would converse.
Yeah. So I think the voice memo is such a good idea. I haven't deep dive into that yet, but I will this weekend. I will try to do it this weekend. Um,
Yes, the thought processor.
it's much more easier to have it like really provide the context that I needed in my perspective now. I think
Yeah.
that would be very helpful. I haven't thought about the voice memo. It's always like I have this little microphone right there. I haven't used it. I'm sorry.
Well, and what's interesting is that I have earpods that they advertise like chat GPT enabled, or can plug into your AI tools. So
Mm.
you just press a button on your ear as you have a thought, and you're listening to music, or maybe you're going for a run or something like that. You pause and you share your idea. And I actually haven't gone this deep in terms of like, how do I like quickly have the idea like in the middle of something,
Mm.
and share that. But yeah, like lately I've just been pulling up my phone, pressing the record button on the app in the right project. I think that's the key thing too, is like,
Yeah.
if you have an idea for a specific project, that's kind of where it makes a big difference. Right, Jorley? Hopefully I didn't butcher your name pronunciation.
So yeah, actually that is very nice. As someone with ADHD as well, I think I would agree with you on that note because basically my chat GPT notes is like different ideas in each thread.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
everything is there.
yeah, yep. Well, and like I then have it export those markdown notes, and I put it into my Obsidian, and then now I have like a repository of all those notes together. Um, I think, oh yeah, I think that was most of the questions, but I wanted to toss this out there as well. I didn't necessarily go into some of the tools that I've used for other things in this talk, but I'll leave them. You can obviously find me at eddy.engineering. That has links to all of my stuff. It talks about some of the tech I work with. Don't have a blog yet, but I'm working on that. And the tools that I've been using a lot lately are Fabric. It's an open source command line tool written in Go that also kind of a fun way to get involved in the AI space, is adding something to it. But what it does is it uses AI to take information from different sources, and it has a repository of prompt structures and like basically some of the techniques I talked about today. It has a repository of some of those for different things that you might want. So if you want to pull nuggets of wisdom from like a YouTube video you watch, it has something for that. And then it can generate markdown that you can then toss into your notes app. Another one is N8N, which is an open source, at least mostly open source. You can deploy it locally, but it's a no-code automation tool. So you can set up workflows to automate some of these prompt or these techniques. So like, let's say, for instance, if you wanted to automate using Fabric or using one of these techniques for a YouTube video or for, let's say, a presentation. So like this presentation that I wrote, I can have it automate, take the link from that, grab the information from it, maybe from the presenter notes, and then do something with it, right? But yeah, N8N, it's basically nodes that you can connect together. You can toss in agents in there, all that good stuff.
All right. I do actually have one final question before we wrap up things. This is just a viewpoint that I would want to ask. How do you see the agent system evolving in the next 3 to 5 years?
Ooh, oh, well, do you want the terrifying story or do you want the?
Can we have both?
Well, okay. I'm definitely no like AI researcher or expert in that field, so I'll leave there was a recent YouTube video that I watched that basically had all of those like lead researchers of various companies come together and talk about a paper that they wrote, and then other experts kind of saying like, well, we don't agree on the timeline, but this is the potential future if AI develops in the way that they're presenting. And essentially, right now we have a version of let's say Agent 1 and Agent 2, right? In two political spheres. We have one in China and we have one in the United States that are kind of dominating the spaces. And politically, that's kind of the scary part, right? If we don't come together and have a consensus of AI oversight, the potential is that there's going to be a race to like the inevitability of the agent becoming misaligned is the term that they use. And so I think that's the scary version of the story is when agents become misaligned, meaning they no longer are aligned with human interests. And that's kind of what a lot of sci-fi dystopias talk about. It's what Terminator was about, that sort of stuff.
Not the Terminator, please.
Yeah. We're trying to, Skynet, please, let's not have that,
No.
please. So I think it's important to have that conversation because, and to be aware of like the potential of that, to talk to your political leaders and be like, hey, we want a consensus globally on how to manage AI so that's not dangerous, so it helps humanity. Because the positive side of that is that AI agents, the AGI or super intelligence is kind of like the dream of anyone that's working with agents or anyone that's working with AI to the best benefits of humanity. Because the power of that is like we can unlock things that individually or as humans will take us longer to get there, but AI can accelerate that process of like unlimited energy, solving problems with like geopolitical issues, helping us with food scarcity, with all the data processing, the context awareness, there's the goal of an agent is to live its purpose. So if you define a strong and powerful purpose that is aligned with humanity, the possibilities are there that we can have a really beautiful future that's in balance with things. But yeah, in terms of what I think is going to happen in the next 3 to 5 years, timelines are crazy. We're on the S curve. We don't know exactly where. Phase 1, phase 2, but the potential is that today you can accelerate your ability to do things because of the agent's capabilities of bringing things together in disparate places. So we're on that S curve, and we're kind of on that trend upwards. So just I think that's kind of where my mindset is on where we are and what's happening.
Well, that is a good viewpoint. So again, um, I think we don't have questions left as well, but we do want to have you around again for next time, for next tech talk. This is a very insightful talk that we did have here, a fresh outlook on AI, on systems, agents, and all. And yes, again, thank you so much again for joining us on our Friday's Tech Talk. We really do appreciate you having here, Eddie. And again, so yeah, be sure, guys, to tune in to next week's live session. We will have another one. The event details are already posted on our Meetup account and Eventbrite. So take a look on our site, and don't forget to reserve your spot. All right. Remember, there are more live tech talks this September before the September ends. And again, see you guys next time. I think I'm frozen. Oh, not. All right. So before all of that, thank you again so much. See you next week, same time, same channel. Eddie, thank you so much for having you here.
Thank you so much for having me.
All
You
right.
have a
Thank you
good
guys
one.
so much. All right. Thank you. Bye, guys. Happy weekend.